The desert night was silent, broken only by the low hum of computers inside the Nevada Space Research Facility. Rows of glowing monitors cast pale light across the faces of tired scientists. For weeks, they had been tracking unusual radio bursts that didn't match any known cosmic phenomena. At first, they thought it was just pulsars. But now, the pattern was undeniable. "Dr. Carter," called a voice from across the control room. "You need to see this." Dr. Emily Carter, chief astrophysicist, hurried over. Her auburn hair was pulled into a tight bun, her green eyes narrowed at the data scrolling on the screen. The signal repeated every 62 seconds, not random static but structured pulses. "It's a language," she whispered. Beside her, Captain Ryan Walker of the U.S. Air Force leaned closer, his sharp jawline and calm presence giving the room a sense of stability. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Emily nodded slowly. "We've just received the first undeniable message from them." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what them meant. Across the world, military leaders, scientists, and politicians were scrambling to verify the discovery. Within hours, the President of the United States, Jonathan Reeves, was briefed inside the Situation Room. His steel-gray hair and stern gaze carried the weight of a man who had seen wars, but nothing like this. "So, Doctor," President Reeves said, turning to Emily Carter, "is there any chance this signal is natural?" "No, sir, this is intelligent, structured. Someone or something is trying to talk to us." "Or," Ryan interjected, "they're trying to size us up." The president exchanged a glance with his generals. "What do they want?" Emily hesitated. "That's the problem. We can't decode it yet, but the repetition is accelerating." 2 nights later, the world had its answer. The skies above Earth tore open with light. Cities across the globe reported strange glowing clouds hovering in orbit. From them descended colossal ships, dark metallic beasts the size of skyscrapers, blotting out the stars. Panic spread instantly. Social media exploded. News anchors trembled live on air. Emily and Ryan watched from the Nevada base's observation deck as a shadow fell across the desert. A ship had appeared, black and angular, with jagged spires protruding like thorns. "My God," Ryan muttered. "They're not here to talk." The ship opened fire. Beams of scorching plasma ripped across the sand, melting entire dunes into glass. The base shook violently, alarms screaming. Soldiers scrambled to defense stations while scientists rushed to secure data drives. Emily grabbed Ryan's arm. "We have to get out of here." But Ryan's training kicked in. He barked orders, rallying troops to man anti-air defenses. Missile batteries roared to life, streaking into the night sky. Explosions blossomed against the alien hull, but the craft barely flinched. The aliens answered with brutal efficiency. A single blast vaporized the western wing of the base. Screams echoed as fire swallowed men and women alike. Emily stumbled, clutching Ryan's hand as debris rained down. "Fall back," Ryan shouted. "Everyone to the bunkers." Through the chaos, Emily caught her first glimpse of them. The aliens emerged in sleek, bone-white armor, their tall, slender bodies moving with unnatural grace. Their eyes glowed a sickly violet and weapons hummed in their hands like instruments of death. They weren't here for diplomacy. They were here for conquest. One of the creatures locked eyes with her. For a brief moment, she felt the weight of their intent, cold and merciless. Humanity was prey. But before the alien could fire, a missile struck nearby, throwing up a wall of sand and fire. Ryan dragged Emily into the bunker as the ground above shook with destruction. Inside, survivors huddled together, faces pale with terror. A young soldier, barely 20, whispered, "Sir, what do we do now?" Ryan clenched his jaw. His uniform was torn, his face streaked with ash, but his voice carried steel. "We fight. We're not going down without a war." Far above Earth, inside the flagship of the alien fleet, a council of warlords observed the chaos through holographic projections. Their leader, a towering figure named Xerath'ul, spoke in a guttural, otherworldly tongue. "The humans resist. Good. Their defiance will make their fall more satisfying." The others hissed in agreement. They had conquered a dozen worlds before. This one would be no different, or so they thought. Because unlike the others, humanity wasn't ready to surrender. Humanity had something the others never did: a will to fight back, even in the face of annihilation. And as the Nevada base smoldered in ruins, Captain Ryan Walker swore that he would lead that fight. The war for Earth had just begun. The morning after the attack on the Nevada base, the world was unrecognizable. Smoke hung over cities like a funeral shroud. Emergency broadcasts blared from televisions, radios, and cell phones. Stay indoors, avoid major roads, seek shelter immediately. But the messages felt useless, because nowhere was safe anymore. Captain Ryan Walker stood with his unit on the rooftop of a battered Las Vegas hotel, binoculars pressed to his eyes. The Strip, once blazing with neon lights, was now a graveyard of fire and collapsed towers. Alien drones buzzed in the distance, scouring the ruins. Behind him, Emily Carter adjusted a portable transmitter they had salvaged from the base. "If I can boost this signal," she said breathlessly, "I might be able to warn Washington about what's coming." Ryan lowered the binoculars, his face grim. What's coming is already here. At that exact moment, a thunderous crack split the sky. One of the alien warships descended over the city like a mountain of steel. Its shadow swallowed entire blocks. Then, the killing began. Columns of violet plasma rained down, carving through asphalt, steel, and flesh alike. Skyscrapers toppled. Civilians ran screaming through the streets, only to be cut down by alien drones that moved like vultures over carrion. Ryan's radio crackled. "This is Colonel Hayes to all surviving units. Regroup at Fremont Street. We're establishing a defensive line." Ryan grabbed his rifle. "That's our chance. Emily, can you move?" She nodded, clutching the transmitter. "Just don't let me die before I finish this." They moved through the ruins like ghosts, sticking to alleys, avoiding patrols. Twice they had to dive behind wreckage as alien soldiers, tall, pale, armored in bone-white suits, marched past. Their weapons hissed with lethal energy, leaving molten scars wherever they fired. At Fremont Street, chaos reigned. Dozens of soldiers, police officers, and even armed civilians had banded together, manning barricades made of overturned buses and rubble. Colonel Hayes, a broad-shouldered man with a scar across his cheek, barked orders. "Walker, get your people into position. We hold this street or Vegas is finished." Ryan saluted sharply. "Yes, sir." Emily hurried to set up her transmitter inside a half-destroyed diner while Ryan's squad took firing positions. The colonel's voice boomed, "They're coming!" And then they came. Dozens of alien soldiers surged forward, weapons blazing. The air turned into a storm of fire and smoke. Human rifles cracked, rockets whooshed, and grenades thundered against the pavement. Ryan squeezed his trigger, dropping one alien after another. But for every one that fell, two more replaced it. Their armor was strong, their aim precise. Humanity was being pushed to the brink. Suddenly, an alien war beast charged into view. It looked like a fusion of machine and flesh, a towering creature with armored plating and serrated limbs. Its roar shook the buildings around them. "AT-4, Ryan yelled. A soldier shouldered a rocket launcher and fired. The rocket struck the beast's chest, detonating in a shower of sparks and gore. The monster collapsed, but its death cry only enraged the alien troops. They pressed harder. Humans fell left and right. Inside the diner, Emily frantically worked on the transmitter. Sparks flew from the console, smoke rising, but finally the device roared to life. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "This is Dr. Emily Carter of the Nevada Space Facility. The aliens are here. They're hitting major cities: Washington, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. We need reinforcements immediately." Her words echoed through the emergency military bands. For the first time since the invasion began, a glimmer of coordination spread across the fractured human defenses. But outside, Ryan knew they couldn't hold much longer. He ducked behind cover as plasma blasts scorched the concrete. His squad was down to half strength. Colonel Hayes was bleeding from a shoulder wound, still refusing to retreat. Ryan's heart pounded. They couldn't win this street fight. Not Yet. "Colonel," Ryan shouted, "we need to pull back. Regroup with the army at Nellis. If we stay, we all die." Hayes hesitated, blood dripping down his arm. Then he gave a single pained nod. "Fall back. Fall back." The survivors scrambled, dragging the wounded, firing as they retreated. Emily clutched the transmitter to her chest, refusing to let it go. Ryan covered her, his rifle nearly glowing from the constant fire. As they fled into the desert, he looked back at Las Vegas. The city was burning, but so was humanity's resolve. This wasn't surrender. This was the beginning of resistance. And Ryan Walker swore that one day, Earth would strike back. The desert outside Las Vegas was eerily silent, except for the sound of engines and the distant thunder of bombardments. Convoys of battered Humvees, trucks, and APCs raced toward Nellis Air Force Base, carrying the survivors of Fremont Street. The sun hung low, casting bloody light across the scorched earth. Captain Ryan Walker sat in the passenger seat of a Humvee, his rifle across his lap, eyes scanning the horizon. Beside him, Dr. Emily Carter clutched the transmitter she had risked, her life for, her knuckles white. "You did good back there," Ryan said, his voice rough from smoke and exhaustion. "That signal reached Washington. Reinforcements are on the way." Emily gave a hollow laugh. "Reinforcements? Against ships that shrug off missiles and soldiers that can tear through concrete? What can we possibly throw at them that they haven't already crushed?" Ryan looked her dead in the eyes. "Us, they've fought armies before, but they've never fought humans, not like this." At Nellis, the base was a hive of desperate activity. Planes were being rearmed, tanks refueled, soldiers patched up and shoved back into the fight. General Marcus Hale, a towering man with a gravelly voice, greeted them on the tarmac. "Walker," Hale barked. "Good work keeping the doctor alive." Her message got through. "Pentagon's mobilizing everything we've got. NATO forces are rallying. Even the Russians and Chinese are setting aside their grudges." Ryan gave a tired salute. "About damn time." Hale's eyes hardened. "We're planning a counterstrike. First real one since this war started, and you're going to be part of it." Emily frowned. "General, with respect, their ships are invulnerable. What could we possibly do?" Hale led them into a hangar where engineers worked furiously around a massive experimental weapon, a railgun, nearly the length of a football field mounted on a mobile platform. "This," Hale said with grim pride, "is Project Thunderstrike. Fires a tungsten slug at Mach 10. If anything can punch through their armor, this can." Ryan's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Now we're talking." The plan was simple but suicidal. Lure one of the alien warships into range of the railgun, hit it hard, then swarm it with every fighter jet and missile battery available. That night, under the glow of spotlights and firelit skies, the operation began. Ryan rode with his squad in a convoy leading straight into alien territory. Drones tracked them from above, firing occasional plasma bolts that forced the soldiers to scatter and return fire. Explosions lit up the desert, but the convoy pressed on, deliberately making itself a target. "Here it comes," Ryan muttered, as the ground trembled. From the clouds above, a colossal warship descended, its jagged hull gleaming with unnatural light. The vessel's cannons glowed, ready to incinerate them. "Signal the railgun," Hale's voice thundered over comms. The desert lit up like the wrath of God. A blinding streak of tungsten tore across the night sky and slammed into the alien warship's flank. For the first time since the invasion began, the enemy bled. The ship staggered, a massive chunk of armor shattering away, its plasma cannons flickering. Cheers erupted across the comms. "We got it! We actually heard it!" "Not done yet," Ryan growled. "Hit it again!" The railgun boomed a second time. The slug ripped into the ship's underbelly, detonating something vital. A chain of explosions rippled along its hull. The alien behemoth groaned like a dying beast, fire spilling from its wounds. "Eagle Squadron, move in," Hale ordered. Dozens of F-35s and F-22s streaked through the sky, unleashing a storm of missiles. The damaged warship reeled, its shields faltering under the relentless barrage. Then with a thunderous roar, it exploded in midair, raining molten wreckage across the desert. Humanity had just killed its first alien warship, but the victory was short-lived. As the wreckage fell, a ripple of movement spread through the clouds. More ships, dozens, descended in formation, blotting out the stars. Ryan's stomach dropped. "Oh, hell," Emily whispered. "For everyone we kill, 100 more come." The sky lit up as the alien fleet opened fire. Plasma beams rained, down tearing into the earth. The railgun's crew tried to reposition, but a direct hit vaporized them in an instant. General Hale's voice roared over comms. "All units, fall back, fall back." Chaos erupted. Jets screamed as they dodged enemy fire. Convoys scattered. The desert became a storm of fire and death. Ryan's Humvee flipped from a nearby blast, throwing him and Emily into the sand. He pulled her up, ignoring the ringing in his ears. Around them, soldiers screamed, vehicles burned, and the alien army descended like wolves. Emily's face was streaked with tears and dust. "Ryan, was it all for nothing?" He tightened his grip on his rifle, staring at the burning remains of the warship they had destroyed. His voice was steady, unbreakable. "No, we proved they can bleed. That means we can kill them." Above, the alien fleet thundered forward. But in the ashes of the desert, humanity's fire had been lit. The war for Earth had truly begun. The burning desert stretched behind them. The wreckage of the destroyed alien warships smoldered on the horizon, a scar on the night sky. Yet the victory was bitter. Nellis Air Force Base had been annihilated, and the alien fleet descended heavier than ever. Captain Ryan Walker led his squad, battered and bleeding, through the shattered outskirts of Phoenix, Arizona. Every street was choked with smoke, flames, and the cries of civilians. "Keep moving," Ryan barked. His voice carried command, even though his uniform was shredded and his body ached from burns and bruises. Emily Carter stumbled beside him, clutching the transmitter like a lifeline. Her once white lab coat was stained with blood and ash. "Ryan," she said, breathless, "the aliens, they're not just bombing cities. They're rounding people up." Ryan's eyes hardened. "Slaves?" Emily shook her head, pale. "No, I saw what they did at the base. They're harvesting." Ryan didn't press for details. He could see the terror in her eyes, and the soldiers around him didn't need more nightmares in their heads. The squad pushed deeper into the city, where the battle raged. Phoenix was a war zone. Skyscrapers burning, highways split apart, drones stalking the skies like predators. Alien ground forces marched through the streets in chilling formations, their bone-white armor glowing faintly in the smoke. Colonel Hayes' voice crackled over comms. "All surviving units converge on downtown. We're setting up a last line of defense." Ryan's heart clenched. Fremont Street had been called a line of defense too, and they all remembered how that ended. But orders were orders. "Move out," he commanded. Downtown Phoenix was hell itself. Human forces had barricaded streets with buses, cars, and collapsed buildings. Civilians crouched in subway tunnels as soldiers manned every rooftop, window, and alley. Ryan and his squad slid into position just as the aliens came. The first wave was drones, sleek, wasp-like machines that shrieked as they dove, spitting plasma fire. Anti-air cannons roared back, filling the sky with streaks of tracer fire. Explosions lit up the skyline like a storm of lightning. Then came the infantry. Dozens of aliens, tall and merciless, stormed forward. Their plasma rifles screamed, searing, through barricades. Human soldiers fought back with rifles, rockets, and raw desperation. Ryan ducked behind a wall, firing in controlled bursts. Beside him, Private Miller, barely 19, yelled, "Sir, they're flanking left. Hold the line," Ryan snapped. He lobbed a grenade, the explosion shattering an alien's armor. For a fleeting second, cheers rose, only to die as more poured in relentless. It wasn't just a battle. It was slaughter. On the rooftop above, Emily frantically assembled the transmitter again, boosting the signal with jury-rigged wires scavenged from the city. Her voice shook as she broadcast, "This is Dr. Emily Carter. Phoenix is under siege. Civilian casualties. God, they're everywhere. We need air support now." But static answered her plea. Washington was silent, Her hands trembled, tears streaking her face. For the first time, she wondered if anyone was even left to hear her. Back on the streets, the line was breaking. Ryan's squad was down to half strength. Colonel Hayes, leading from the front despite his wounds, roared into his radio. "Fall back to the secondary perimeter. Don't let them surround you." Ryan grabbed Miller by the vest, dragging him from cover as a plasma bolt vaporized the wall they'd been hiding behind. Debris rained down, smoke choking the air. Suddenly, the roar of jet engines split the chaos. Ryan looked up. F-35 screamed overhead, unleashing missiles into the alien ranks. Explosions ripped through the invaders, buying the humans a moment of breathing room. But then the sky opened again. An alien transport descended, larger than any they had seen before. Its hull split apart, disgorging monstrous figures. Alien war beasts. Four-legged nightmares bristling with blades and plasma cannons mounted on their backs. The humans froze in horror. "Fall back," Hayes bellowed. The beasts charged. One slammed into a barricade, tossing cars aside like toys. Soldiers opened fire, bullets sparking harmlessly off its armored hide. Plasma fire scythed through the defenders, leaving bodies smoking on the pavement. Ryan didn't think. He acted. He grabbed a fallen rocket launcher, shouldered it, and fired. The warhead smashed into the beast's chest, detonating in a fireball. The creature screeched, thrashing wildly before collapsing. "Target the joints," Ryan shouted. "Bring them down." The squad rallied, aiming for weak spots, pouring every ounce of fire into the creatures. One after another, the beasts fell, but the cost was devastating. Hayes himself was dragged down, slashed by claws before soldiers could drive the monster back with explosives. Ryan rushed to him, kneeling in the rubble. The colonel's eyes were glassy, blood pouring from a mortal wound. "Walker." Hayes grasped, clutching Ryan's arm. "It's your fight now. Lead them. Don't stop." His hand went limp. Ryan's chest burned with rage. He rose, his rifle clenched so tightly his knuckles went white. "To the last man," he roared. "We fight for every inch." The survivors screamed in defiance, rallying behind him. They fought with a fury that surprised even the aliens. Plasma met steel, flesh met fire. Humans died in droves, but they took aliens with them. Hours later, Phoenix was in ruins. The aliens had taken the city, but at a cost. Hundreds of their dead littered the streets, their war beasts lying broken among the rubble. Ryan led what remained of his squad, barely 24 survivors, into the mountains outside the city. Emily walked beside him, exhausted but alive, carrying the only transmitter still functioning. As they collapsed around a campfire, Ryan looked at the flames and swore quietly. "They think this planet is theirs, but as long as one of us is breathing, it belongs to humanity." For the first time that night, Emily allowed herself to believe him. The battle for survival had only just begun. The mountains outside Phoenix were cold and silent, but the survivors huddled around their meager fire as if it were the last warmth on Earth. Captain Ryan Walker sat on a rock, staring into the flames, his rifle across his knees. Around him, the faces of his soldiers were gaunt and hollow, exhausted, haunted, but alive. Emily Carter sat nearby, adjusting the battered transmitter again. The device sparked occasionally, but it still worked, barely. Her fingers were raw from constant tinkering, her voice hoarse from sending out desperate broadcasts. Ryan broke the silence. "How many answered today?" Emily hesitated, then sighed. "A handful of militia groups in Colorado, a Navy destroyer in the Pacific, and a Russian submarine. That's it." Ryan's jaw clenched. Humanity was scattered, broken, and bleeding. But even fragments could still be dangerous. Suddenly, Private Miller, his youngest soldier, his uniform filthy and torn, spoke up. "Sir, I don't get it. Why are they even here? We're fighting like hell, but what do they want with us?" Emily's eyes darkened. "Resources, maybe slaves, but..." She swallowed. "I've been studying the bodies we recovered from Phoenix. These aliens, they're not invincible." Ryan's eyes sharpened. "Explain." She leaned forward, her voice low. "Their armor, their weapons, that's terrifying. But their biology? Not so much. Their blood is acidic, corrosive, but their nervous system... She paused, choosing her words. It's sensitive. Very sensitive. I think they're vulnerable to certain frequencies. Ryan frowned. Frequencies? Like sound? Emily nodded. Yes, high-intensity sonic waves. I rigged the transmitter earlier and accidentally hit a feedback spike. The alien eye was near collapsed, bleeding from its ears. I think we found their weakness. For the first time in days, hope flickered in Ryan's chest. The very next night, the survivors tested Emily's theory. They wired scavenged speakers, amplifiers, and the transmitter to create what soldiers jokingly called the Screamer. The opportunity came quickly. A patrol of alien soldiers moved through the valley, scanning for human stragglers. Ryan's squad waited in silence, rifles ready, hearts pounding. Now, Emily whispered, flipping the switch. A piercing shriek ripped through the night, a frequency so sharp it made the humans themselves wince. But the aliens reacted violently, stumbling, clutching their heads, their glowing eyes flickering wildly. One collapsed outright, twitching on the ground. "Open fire!" Ryan roared. Bullets and grenades shredded the disoriented aliens. For the first time, they weren't fighting on equal terms. They were hunting. Within minutes, the patrol was annihilated. Miller whooped, throwing his rifle in the air. "We did it. We actually killed them without losing anyone." Ryan looked at Emily, who was pale but steady. "Doctor, you just gave humanity its first real weapon." Word of the discovery spread quickly through the resistance. Within days, makeshift screamers appeared across battlefields. From New York's subways to the ruins of Los Angeles, human fighters blasted sonic waves before ambushing alien squads. Casualties dropped. Morale soared. The aliens, once unstoppable, suddenly faltered. For the first time, they were forced onto the defensive. But victory came with consequences. Inside the command chamber of the alien flagship, the warlord Xerath'ul slammed his clawed hand onto a holographic map of Earth. His violet eyes burned with fury. "These creatures," he snarled in his guttural tongue, "should have been broken in days. Instead, they adapt. They resist." A subordinate hissed nervously. "Shall we escalate, my lord?" Xerath'ul's jagged teeth glinted. "Yes, burn their cities. Leave nothing alive. If humanity wants war, then war they shall have." Back in the mountains, Ryan's squad watched the night sky ignite. Alien ships unleashed torrents of plasma onto entire city blocks. Fires burned from horizon to horizon. Civilians screamed in the distance. Ryan's fists clenched. "They're scared, that's why they're lashing out." Emily nodded grimly. "Which means we're closer than ever to turning this war around." Ryan rose to his feet, his voice carrying across the camp. "Listen up. We've bled for every street, every city. We've lost brothers and sisters, but now we know they can bleed too. And I swear to every one of you, we're going to take this fight to them. Not just survive, not just hide. We're going to strike back, harder than they ever imagined." The soldiers erupted in cheers, their voices echoing against the mountains. The tide of war was shifting. Humanity was no longer prey. They were predators. The sun rose over the Rocky Mountains, painting the peaks in shades of crimson and gold. To the scattered bands of resistance fighters gathering in the valleys, it wasn't a sunrise. It was a war drum. Captain Ryan Walker stood before a crowd of soldiers, militia, and refugees turned fighters. Hundreds had answered the call. Americans, Canadians, even defected Russian commandos who had slipped through enemy patrols. They were battered, underfed, and outgunned. But they carried something far stronger than weapons: resolve. Ryan raised his voice over the cold morning air. "Today we stop running. Today we strike back. They think Earth is theirs. Let's remind them it belongs to us." A roar rose from the crowd, echoing against the mountains. At the center of their plan stood Emily Carter's invention, a scaled-up screamer mounted on the back of a truck, amplified with salvaged military tech. The weapon pulsed with deadly promise. Its dish pointed toward the sky. Emily adjusted the controls, her face set with grim determination. If this works, we'll disable their command ship long enough to tear it apart. Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder. And if it doesn't, she met his gaze. Then humanity dies here. That night, the operation began. Convoys of trucks and armored vehicles wound through the valleys, headlights blacked out, their engines muffled. Overhead, the alien flagship loomed like a floating fortress, surrounded by escorts. Plasma fire occasionally lit the distant horizon as other human enclaves were crushed. Ryan's squad rode in silence, their faces pale but steady. Private Miller clutched his rifle tightly, whispering a prayer under his breath. "Scared, kid?" Ryan asked quietly. Miller managed a weak grin. "Hell yes, sir, but I'd rather die fighting than hiding." Ryan nodded. "That's the spirit." When the convoy reached the designated ridge, Emily fired up the screamer. The dish glowed faintly, power surging through cables. "Charging, 80%, 100%. "Let's wake the bastards up," Ryan growled. The mountains erupted with sound. A piercing wave of sonic energy tore through the night, invisible but devastating. The alien escorts shuddered violently, their lights flickering. One dropped from the sky entirely, smashing into a canyon below. The flagship itself reeled, its shields faltering, engines sputtering. "Now!" Ryan roared. From the valleys below, every hidden artillery gun, rocket battery, and fighter jet unleashed hell. Missiles streaked upward, slamming into the wounded flagship. Explosions ripped across its hull, fire spilling into the night sky. For a moment, victory seemed within reach, but the aliens weren't finished. From the flagship's belly, hangar doors split open. Dozens of dropships screamed toward the ground, disgorging waves of soldiers and war beasts. Plasma fire lit up the ridges as the aliens counterattacked with terrifying force. The battlefield descended into chaos. Ryan's squad fought tooth and nail, grenades and bullets carving through disoriented aliens still writhing from the sonic assault. Miller gunned down one soldier, then another, before a plasma bolt caught him in the side. "Medic!" Ryan shouted, dragging him into cover. Miller coughed blood, gripping Ryan's vest. Don't let it be for nothing." Ryan's chest ached, but he forced steel into his voice. "You're not dying today, kid. Not while I'm still breathing." Meanwhile, Emily was a whirlwind of motion, frantically recalibrating the screamer as alien drones closed in. Sparks flew from the console and smoke poured from the amplifiers. "Emily!" Ryan shouted. "We're being overrun." She didn't look up. "We can't stop now. If we don't finish this, the whole world is lost." Then the truck shuddered as plasma fire ripped into its frame. Flames licked the edges of the screamer. Emily screamed in pain as shrapnel tore across her arm. Ryan sprinted to her, gunning down two aliens before slamming into the truck. "You're hit. I can still do this," she cried, her face streaked with blood. "Just buy me time," and Ryan did. With a roar, he charged into the fray, leading his squad in a furious counterattack. They fought with reckless abandon, tearing into alien lines, forcing them back inch by bloody inch. Soldiers screamed, died, rose again, and kept fighting. The battlefield became a furnace of sacrifice. Colonel Hayes' replacement, Major Torres, detonated his own ammo truck in a suicidal blast that wiped out an entire platoon of aliens. Civilians armed with hunting rifles stood shoulder to shoulder with special forces, refusing to give an inch. And at the center of it all, Emily Carter slammed her bloody hand onto the screamer's console and unleashed its full power. The sound was deafening, rattling mountains, splitting glass for miles. The alien flagship convulsed violently, its shields collapsing, its hull splitting apart. "Now!" Ryan screamed. A wave of missiles streaked into the sky, slamming into the flagship's core. The ship erupted in a cataclysmic explosion, raining fire across the valley. The night turned into day as the flagship disintegrated, its death cry echoing across the stars. Silence followed. The battlefield was a graveyard. Alien corpses littered. The ground, burning wreckage, smoldered, and human bodies lay where they had fallen. Ryan staggered toward Emily, who was slumped against the truck, her face pale. He caught her before she collapsed completely. "You did it," he whispered, his throat raw. "You saved us." Her eyes fluttered open. "Not yet," she murmured weakly. This was just one ship. There are more. Ryan looked at the burning sky, his jaw tightening. Then we'll kill them all. Humanity had turned the tide, but the price was written in blood across the mountains. The world was burning, but it was still alive. The destruction of the alien flagship over the Rocky Mountains had sent shockwaves across the globe. For the first time since the invasion began, humans dared to hope. Radio chatter crackled with news of scattered victories. French resistance fighters downing a cruiser near Paris, a coalition strike team crippling an enemy base in Siberia, guerrilla forces in Africa, ambushing convoys with sonic weapons. But the war wasn't over. High above Earth, the alien fleet still hung like a storm of blades, and at its center loomed the Overlord vessel, Xerath'ul's personal command ship, bristling with weapons capable of scorching continents. Humanity had one chance left. Captain Ryan Walker stood on the deck of the USS Independence, a massive carrier repurposed into the spearhead of the final assault. Around him, soldiers, sailors, and pilots prepared for battle. Their uniforms were torn, their eyes hollow, but their spirits were unbreakable. Emily Carter limped across the deck, her arm still bandaged from the mountain battle, but her gaze fierce. She carried a smaller version of the Screamer, a portable device calibrated to maximum output. Ryan helped her up the gangway. "You shouldn't be here, you need rest," Emily smirked. "And miss the end of the world? Not a chance." Ryan's lips twitched into a grim smile. "Then let's make sure. It's their end, not ours." The plan was insanity, and everyone knew it. A coalition of surviving militaries, from the US, Russia, Europe, Asia, even scattered African and South American militias, would converge in one final, all-or-nothing strike. Thousands of jets, submarines, and ground forces were committed. If they failed, Earth would fall completely. The objective? Destroy the Overlord vessel, kill Xerath'ul, and break the alien command chain. Ryan's squad was chosen as one of the boarding teams. Their task? Infiltrate the flagship through a breach created by combined missile barrages, plant a sonic core inside, and detonate it from within. It was suicide, but no one hesitated. The assault began at dawn. The sky became a furnace of fire, and steel as hundreds of jets screamed upward, missiles streaking into the heavens. Naval batteries thundered from the coasts, submarines launched torpedoes from the depths, and ground-based rockets lit up the horizon. The alien fleet answered, with plasma storms that tore through the sky. Dozens of human aircraft disintegrated instantly, but others pressed on, weaving through fire like avenging angels. The Overlord vessel unleashed its fury, vaporizing battleships with a single blast, shredding entire squadrons in seconds. Yet, still humanity charged wave after desperate wave. "Breach point opening," the radio screamed. Ryan's shuttle rocketed upward, weaving through debris as explosions shook the heavens. Alien drones swarmed them, plasma bolts hammering the hull. Inside, Ryan's squad clung to their seats, white-knuckled but determined. "Brace!" the pilot yelled as missiles tore into the Overlord vessel's flank. A section of its armor cracked and split, exposing a glowing interior. The shuttle dove straight into the wound. They crash-landed inside a cavernous hangar. The shuttle skidded, sparks flying before slamming to a halt. The ramp dropped and Ryan led his squad into the belly of the beast. The hangar was alive with alien soldiers. Bone-armored giants hissed and raised their weapons. "Go, go, go," Ryan roared. The squad poured out, rifles blazing, grenades flying. Plasma fire lit the chamber as aliens and humans clashed in brutal close-quarters combat. Screams echoed, blood spattered across the walls. Emily knelt behind cover, activating the portable screamer. A wave of sound pulsed outward, staggering, the aliens buying precious seconds. "Path is clear," she shouted. Ryan led the charge deeper into the ship. They fought through corridors of black steel and pulsating alien veins. The Overlord vessel felt alive, humming with energy, every surface vibrating with alien power. At last they reached the command chamber, and there he was, Xerath'ul. The alien warlord towered above them, his armor fused with biomechanical plates, his eyes glowing like twin suns of violet fire, His voice shook the chamber. "Foolish humans, you defy inevitability. You resist extinction. And for that, you will suffer." Ryan raised his rifle. "The only one dying today is you." The chamber erupted into chaos. Xerath'ul moved with terrifying speed, his blade arm slicing through steel. 2 soldiers were cut down instantly. Ryan dove aside, unloading his rifle, but the rounds bounced off the warlord's armor. "Emily, the core!" Ryan shouted. She scrambled to the console, setting the sonic device in place. "Cover me!" Ryan and his squad threw everything they had at Xerath'ul: rockets, grenades, sheer fury. The warlord shrugged it off, roaring as his blade struck again and again. Finally, he pinned Ryan against the wall, claws pressing into his chest. "You are nothing," Xerath'ul snarled. "Your species is weak." Ryan spat blood and a grin. "Then why are you bleeding?" Xerath'ul glanced down. Embedded in his side was Miller's last grenade, the pin pulled in his dying breath. The explosion tore half of the warlord's armor apart, staggering him. Ryan broke free, seizing the chance. "Emily, now!" She slammed her palm onto the core's activator. The screamer roared to life, a tidal wave of sound ripping through the chamber. Xerath'ul shrieked, collapsing to his knees, his violet eyes shattering like glass. Ryan charged, seizing a fallen alien blade, and drove it straight through the warlord's chest. The Overlord vessel trembled violently. Systems failed. Lights shattered, the entire ship groaning as if it were dying. Ryan grabbed Emily's hand. "We've got to move. Now!" They sprinted through collapsing corridors, explosions ripping through the vessel. Behind them, Xerath'ul's dying roar echoed, a sound of rage and disbelief. Their shuttle blasted free just as the Overlord vessel imploded, a supernova of fire consuming the alien command ship. The sky lit up with its death. Across the world, alien forces faltered, their coordination shattered. Ships veered wildly. Drones collapsed mid-flight. Ground troops staggered in confusion. Humanity had cut off the head of the serpent. On the shuttle, Ryan collapsed into his seat, covered in blood and ash, chest heaving. Emily sat beside him, trembling, tears streaming down her face. "Is it over?" she whispered. Ryan stared at the burning wreck of the Overlord vessel, his eyes hard. "It's not over," he said quietly. "But tonight we proved one thing. Humanity doesn't bow. Not to gods, not to monsters, not to anyone." And for the first time since the war began, hope soared across Earth like a rising flame. The war was not over in a single night. Though Xerath'ul's death had shattered the alien chain of command, thousands of their soldiers remained on Earth, leaderless, but still deadly. Weeks of bitter fighting followed as humans hunted down the remnants, burning nests, ambushing convoys, reclaiming cities block by block. But the tide had turned. Where once humans cowered in ruins, now they rose with defiance. Villages that had been silent graves erupted with gunfire and battle cries. Resistance fighters became liberators. And slowly, painfully, humanity pushed the invaders back. Months later, Captain Ryan Walker stood on the ruins of New York City, overlooking a skyline scarred by fire and war. Towering alien wreckage jutted among broken skyscrapers, monuments to both destruction and survival. Around him, the city pulsed with rebirth. Soldiers cleared rubble, engineers patched power grids, children ran laughing through makeshift camps. For the first time, New York breathed again. Emily Carter stood beside him, her arm in a sling but her eyes alive with determination. She held the portable screamer, now a relic of victory. "They'll write about this day," she murmured, "about how close we came to extinction and how we refused to die." Ryan nodded, his gaze sweeping across the horizon. "They'll write about all of us. The ones who fought, the ones who fell, and the ones who gave everything so the rest of us could stand here now." A memorial had been raised in Central Park. A wall of names etched into steel, stretching longer than any man could walk in an hour. Civilians and soldiers alike gathered there each morning, pressing their hands against the cold surface, whispering the names of loved ones. Ryan visited daily. He traced his fingers over familiar names: Colonel Hayes, Private Miller, Major Torres, and felt the weight of their sacrifice. They didn't die for nothing, he whispered. Because of them, humanity is still here. Emily placed a hand on his shoulder. And because of them, we'll be ready for whatever comes next. For even in victory, the truth remained. Earth was no longer alone. The stars above, once symbols of wonder, were now reminders of war. Humanity had seen what waited in the void. Empires that saw Earth as prey, civilizations that treated humans as cattle. But humanity was no longer prey. The war had forced innovation beyond imagination. The Screamer had been only the beginning. Reverse-engineered alien tech now powered new ships, new weapons, new dreams. What had once been the shattered remnants of armies were now the seeds of a united Earth defense force. For the first time in history, nations that had once been rivals stood as one. Ryan stood before the first of the new starships being assembled from alien wreckage. Its name was painted across the hull in bold white letters, the Resolute. He felt a grim smile tug at his lips. They thought Earth would fall. Instead, they gave us the stars. That night, as the city lights flickered back to life, Emily stood, with Ryan atop the ruins of the Empire State Building. "Do you ever think about what's next?" she asked softly. Ryan looked up at the sky, where the constellations gleamed brighter than ever before. "Yeah," he said. "I think about the next war, the next enemy, the next time someone out there thinks they can break us." Emily's hand slipped into his. "And," Ryan's eyes hardened, the fire of defiance burning within, "and I think, let them come." Above them, the stars shimmered, no longer unreachable, no longer a mystery. Now, they were a battlefield waiting to be claimed, and humanity was ready.